Alright, I don't really have much available when it comes to Rime, but someone asked me for a basic Rime rotation. They're telling me that they're having problems with playing her and they feel like they're doing dog shit damage, meanwhile they're relatively good eye level. So I am curious what they're going on about and or why that's the case. I do have multiple Rime builds on the channel, or well, a Rime build that is exceptionally powerful that utilizes Avalanche and multiple Comet procs to just allow you to absolutely annihilate everything. But with that being said, I'm going to go over a very basic Rime rotation of what you should do if you're absolutely starting out with literally nothing in this case, like I currently am. This is from zero in early access at the moment. They're asking for a basic Rime rotation, so that is as follows. She has her anima orbs right here. Now, the most important thing is that her spirit chance here has a chance to refund any of her winter orbs. Sorry, she has anima for the bar and winter orbs for the spendable currency. The thing is what you want to do is you want to generate as much of the anima, which is like the energy bar, and then when you reach the end here, you'll get one orb, right? You will get one orb, and then as a result of getting that, you want to spend the orb on something, either Ice Comet or Glacial Blast here. So the goal is to get as much of it as possible, and you can see the Frostbolt does piss-ass fucking anima, which is absolutely tragic. Now, when you add in other talents, such as Burst Bolter or those sorts of things, which you can see right here, when it deals damage to an enemy, it triggers a single pulse of bursting ice and generates 2 additional anima. Like I said, I am working with very bare minimum in this case, but I'll do my best to give you a showcase. So the goal is to generate a full bar of it, but you have 2 other abilities. Bursting Ice, which is Frost Bomb, which will do its AoE damage, and you'll see will generate a lot of damage, and then fling a Cold Snap at our boy here. Now, I covered in one of my Alarian coaching videos recently something to do about charge manipulation. In this case, we want to always keep 1 charge of our Cold Snap recharging. Cold Snap is right here. This is the charge-based ability. Effectively, it's Ice Lance. This will give you 1 charge instantaneously of our anima charges right here. And what you're going to want to use these on will vary based on if you're on AoE. On an AoE scenario, you want to use Ice Comet, like so. On single target, you want to use Glacial Blast, which does relatively good damage. Now you'll see you also have a Freezing Torrent here. Freezing Torrent will do relatively good damage to a singular target and generate almost 65% of an anima bar. However, there are things you can do within this cast rotation that allow you to get even more value out of it. Now, that Freezing Torrent actually gives you a bunch of different things. Crypto in chat does play Rime at a much higher level and can do some crazy stuff. I am not there at the moment. I cannot comment on that sort of stuff. This is absolute basics. Basically all I got. Because if you do stuff like Freezing Torrent duration increase, Winter's Embrace, and some of this extra sort of stuff people are using, what they're doing with the big fuck-off builds is they're using Winter's Embrace, which, while Bursting Ice is active on an enemy, you gain Winter's Embrace, which is a mini buff that gives you 20% more damage. And this doesn't affect Bursting Ice, but it does affect everything else. So it basically creates a mini burst window inside of the Bursting Ice. So the Bursting Ice will also give you more anima, based on if it's used AoE or single target, I believe, because it should hit multiple AoE targets. So give it a few seconds here. I may be wrong. We shall see. Hit it. Ah, looks about the same. What can you do? So, from there, like I said, you want to generate as many charges as you possibly can. And within this window, what I will normally do is either one of 2 things. I will immediately go and clip it with a Frozen Torrent cast, because you're going to want to put the Freezing Torrent right into the Frost Bomb if you're using the talent here for Winter's Embrace, because it's 20% more damage. So it's just going to look quite simply like... I pressed the wrong button. Like that. I was like 2 seconds off. you pop this, and then you do that in the other order. On AoE, you pop this, you pop this, you pop this. Right? Very simply. I'll let it come back. It happens. It's been 23 hours. Pop this. Into this. You can do a little bit of a queue up there. And then you'll immediately get your 2 orbs here. Now from here, we can go 2 different ways. We can go into Frostbolt spam. We can go into Cold Snap. Okay? Now, the important thing here is you actually do neither. Because you do both at the same time. Because if you were watching the Alarian guide, I taught clipping. Which is where you use a spell and clip the GCD right at the end of it. So that you get maximum timing on the GCD ender, so it goes all the way around. And you get maximum value. Which then means you can then use that global cooldown time to reposition for a half second. To then dig in for a cast on Glacial Blast. So, if we go all the way back to the start. And we use our little Frostbolts. Like so. From what we do here, let's repeat and reiterate, shall we? We open with Freezing Torrent. Or we open with... Fuck, I'm terrible. We open with Frost Bomb. Freezing Ice. I think it is Bursting Ice. Into our beam. Then we go into Frostbolt, clip it, and ship it. And then you drop either your Comets on AoE, or your Glacial on single target. Like so. We clip the Frost Bomb with the Freezing Torrent. We clip the Frostbolt with the Cold Snap. We clip it again. We hardcast on single... you hardcast on single target. You dump on AoE. And then in that scenario, I quite literally am in the perfect scenario to continue again. Now, as I said previously in the Ilarian live coaching, you want to try and keep 1 charge of your damaging abilities on cooldown. So you can dump both of them if you want, but you want to try and always have things recharging if you can. Always have things with a stack ticking away for another recharge. Now, Rime is perfect in that she can basically cycle the exact same stuff over and over and over again with this very basic rotation. So, Bursting Ice into AoE, or into Freezing Torrent, Frostbolt into Clip, Frostbolt into Clip, Ice Comet into Bursting Ice, into now Frostbolt, 1 filler, Freezing Torrent, into Ice Comet, into Frostbolt, into Clip, into Ice Comet, into Bursting Ice, into Frostbolt, into... I could have Frostbolt Clip there, I'm trash, into Freezing Torrent. And it just rotates. Just over and 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 over again. That's for AoE. Single target right here. Fucking same story, but single target. We go Bursting on boss. Freezing. Cast. Cast into Clip. Cast. We Glacial into Clip. Glacial. I fucked up actually. Bursting Ice. I keep it on cooldown. Frostbolt into Clip. Freezing Torrent. Like that, you always have something to do. And then 1.5 seconds. Off the end of the cast. Frostbolt into Clip. Hard cast. Notice how I always have something to do? There's always something coming up. Always something to press. Frostbolt into Clip. Hard cast. I think I'm cooked here though. And then here you just 1 Frostbolt into, there'll be a second Frostbolt there, into Bursting Ice, Clip with Freezing Torrent, into Frostbolt Clip, into Comet, or sorry, Blast, Bursting Ice. Like, you see what I mean? There is literally always something to do. Now if you add in more things over top of this, you get faster and faster and faster and more and more and more damage. So then you add things like the other talents. For example, Ice Blitz, which gives you 20% more damage, which is just giga fucking damn, you're fine. Then you can get things like Flight of the Navir. So when your Frost swallows to circle above, your Cold Snap and Freezing Torrent command the Frost swallows to swoop down. You do the exact same rotation, You'll get even more damage out of it, provided you pop this first. So what you use now, in this case, is you would go, I don't have it so I can't show you, but you would go Frost Bomb into Flight of the Navir, and then Flight of the Navir is off global cooldown. So you have to have fast hands. So you pop, just for showcase, you pop Bursting Ice, Flight of the Navir, into Freezing Torrent, and then you would go into single target or into AoE. Alright, in that case you would go AoE, so you then you drop this. Right? And then from there you just continue doing the exact same cycle with Frostbolt into Clip, and then into Comet, etc. Right? Frigid Winds, the knockback, talent points, Winter's Blessing is Spirit Increase, which this I would use for basically team saving. 30% of damage dealt is replicated. So it always Bursting Ice first and Torrent. Yeah, from my experience, that is where I would always open, because like I said with beforehand, always have things on cooldown. Always have the most important things on cooldown coming back up as long as possible, because if you have any chance to cast anything, you should always cast the most important things that need to be always cycling. So in our case here, those two are now cycling while I'm able to move. Get a sit down and like go, and then now I can move, and then Frostbolt here, and then now I can go and get a big Bursting Ice while I'm moving. So I could be avoiding mechanics right now. You know what I mean? And then while I'm avoiding mechanics, the important stuff is ticking away on cooldown. Like so. Start, stop. Start, stop. All while having the important spells ticking away on cooldown after having used them, whilst being able to avoid mechanics in between. So now you add in things like some talent points. You run stuff like, for example, like I showed before, the Winter's Embrace, which when you're in the Winter's Embrace window, this is why people normally apply Bursting Ice first, is Winter's Embrace, because there's a legendary for Rime at endgame, which I don't have just yet. If you go to the Legend Codex, which they run where your Bursting Ice lasts 2 seconds longer, which means your burst window from the talent here is 2 seconds longer, which means you can get even more damage out of our Freezing Torrent, which you can increase the duration of by 0.8 seconds. You can then use Burst Bolter for your Frostbolt, deals 1 single trigger of Bursting Ice and generates 2 additional anima. This makes your Frostbolt now AoE, so your filler can now do extra stuff. But Chilling Finesse, the very first node here. Each tick of Freezing Torrent reduces the cooldown of Bursting Ice by 0.3 seconds. Now, the reason this is exceptionally powerful is, think about that combo that I just showed you. You lead with this, which means it's already on cooldown, which means when you hit it with this, you are ticking the cooldown off of Bursting Ice every single little packet of damage you're doing. Each time you cast Cold Snap, the cooldown of Freezing Torrent is reduced. So then, literally, the combo I just showed you works perfectly. Use this. This is on cooldown. Clip it into this. This would give you back this cooldown. Go into Frostbolt and clip the Frostbolt. This would give you this cooldown, which would give you this back. And then you would go here and you would clip it into this, which would give you this back, which would then let you do this, which would give you this back. Then you cycle it faster and faster and faster, depending on your haste and your talent setup and what have you. And that's just one build, right? You added Winter's Embrace, you had, you know, Burst Bolter, you had Freezing Torrent fucking duration. There's hundreds of fucking builds you can, well, not hundreds, but there's a lot of builds you can do here. So that is kind of like the basics of Rime. So Supreme Torrent, Burst Bolter, Coalescing Ice, Cascading Blitz, and Soul Frost Torrent. I think that's pretty close. So I do Flight of the Navir, Ice Blitz, and Winter's Blessing, then Torrent, Bursting Ice, 1 Cold Snap, then Ice Comet if AoE. Yeah, you were doing that whole thing backwards, my guy. It should be Bursting Ice first, clip the Bursting Ice, cooldown with a Flight of the Navir because it's off global cooldown, then go into a Freezing Torrent, which should hit AoE. After the Freezing Torrent that hits AoE, you can then pop your Ice Blitz. Oh, actually, you should... I'm fucking garbage. It should be Bursting Ice, clip with Flight of the Navir, pop your Ice Blitz, and then you go into the bursting, or then you go into the fucking Freezing Torrent. Freezing Torrent would do big AoE during the bursting ice window. And then you do Frostbolt, Cold Snap, which then makes the Flight of the Navier come down and swoop down and fuck everything. You don't press Winter's Blessing in the opener. Do not combo your Winter's Blessing with your damage cooldowns. You are galaxy fucking trolling if you do that. Because it is a defensive cooldown. It is a Shadow Priest defensive cooldown. It heals your team. It's not about the Spirit Refund. It's about the team healing. I have saved runs combining Winter's Blessing with the Nature's Fury weapon. The Nature's Fury weapon does immeasurable damage to the point that it's not even remotely fucking close. And the healing it does is also absurd. So if you combine Winter's Blessing's damage on healing that this thing can get, you can see right here, 30% of all damage you deal is replicated as healing divided equally between allies. If you go to Dungeon Codex, we go to Loot, and we go to Adept 2, Branch of the Everliving. Conjures the forces of nature to bounce between up to 4 enemies, dealing damage and healing allies with critical strike chance. If you combine this with Winter's Blessing, you heal people and you deal damage, and that damage also heals people. I have topped a team from shit creek about to die to full HP, the entire team, in one button press. Well, 2 button presses, because you press Winter's and then this. You press Winter's Blessing and then this. And you go from there. Yes, Rime can top off an entire team. If you have Branch of the Everliving. It is absolutely absurd. There is a video on the channel of it. It is my Avalanche build. Yeah, if you pop both of them, if your team is getting giga fucked up, you'll be able to get a massive burst on mobs, and you'll be able to get a literal full team top instantaneously with that combo. So yeah, that is the Rime basics and my suggested little setup. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do with the skill tree. I'm no expert whatsoever, but that is the start that should get you going.